Dive into the annals of history where the roots of the Israel-Philistine conflict lie. Our journey begins in the Iron Age, a period of time when the world was still young and the seeds of future civilizations were just beginning to sprout. It was during this era that two distinct groups emerged from the eastern Mediterranean basin, the Philistines and the Israelites. The Philistines, believed to have migrated from the Aegean region, established themselves in the coastal plains of modern-day southern Israel and the Gaza Strip. The Israelites, on the other hand, made their home in the hilly regions of Judea and Samaria, cultivating the lands that lay to the northeast and west of the Philistine territories. The close geographical proximity of these two communities laid the groundwork for a series of interactions, both peaceful and hostile. In the beginning, these interactions were mostly peaceful, characterized by trade and cultural exchange. However, as time passed, the relations between the Philistines and the Israelites began to sour. Conflicts arose over territorial disputes, access to resources, and perceived slights. These disagreements escalated into full-blown battles, with each group asserting its dominance over the other. The geographical proximity of the Philistines and Israelites played a significant role in the escalation of these conflicts. The Philistines, with their strategic position along the Mediterranean coast, controlled the trade routes and access to the sea. The Israelites, nestled in the hills, had control over the inland routes. This geographical dynamic created a constant pressure for control, sparking frequent skirmishes and battles. These conflicts were not isolated incidents. They were part of a larger geopolitical context, influenced by the rise and fall of other regional powers. The Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, and later the Persians, Greeks and Romans all played their parts in shaping the course of the Israel-Philistine relations. As we leave the medieval era, we find that the seeds of conflict sown centuries ago continue to bear fruit in the modern era. The echoes of these ancient battles are still heard today, reverberating through the sands of time, reminding us of a history fraught with conflict and strife. Fast forward to the 20th century, a period of significant change that reshaped the Israel-Philistine relations. The world was in flux, and the Middle East was no exception. Here we see the onset of a series of events that would significantly alter the trajectory of the Israel-Philistine conflict. It all began with the Balfour Declaration in 1917. This was a public statement issued by the British government during World War I, announcing support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. The declaration was controversial, to say the least. While it was hailed by Zionists around the world, it was met with strong opposition from the Arab population in Palestine, who constituted the majority at the time. This sparked off a series of protests and uprisings, marking the beginning of a new chapter in the Israel-Philistine conflict. This was further complicated by the British Mandate for Palestine, a legal instrument adopted by the League of Nations in 1922. The mandate gave Britain administrative control over Palestine, with the responsibility of implementing the Balfour Declaration. The mandate period witnessed increased Jewish immigration to Palestine, leading to heightened tensions between the Jewish immigrants and the Arab population. These tensions often erupted into violence, setting the stage for the conflicts that would follow. Then came 1948, a year that would forever change the landscape of the Israel-Philistine conflict. The State of Israel was proclaimed on the 14th of May, 1948. This marked the end of the British Mandate and the beginning of a new state. However, this moment of jubilation for some was a moment of catastrophe for others. The Arab states rejected the partition of Palestine and launched a military intervention. This was the first of many wars that would define the Israel-Philistine conflict in the years to come. In the midst of these wars and conflicts, the Palestine Liberation Organization, or PLO, was established in 1964. The PLO was seen as a significant development in the conflict, as it sought to create a platform for the representation of the Palestinian people. It played a vital role in shaping the political dynamics of the region and had a significant impact on the Israel-Philistine conflict. As the 20th century drew to a close, the Israel-Philistine conflict had evolved from a local dispute into a major international issue. It had drawn in world powers, reshaped regional alliances, and left an indelible mark on the course of modern history. With the dawn of the 21st century, the conflict took on new dimensions, influenced by global politics and changing alliances. But that, dear listeners, is a story for another day. Now let's anchor ourselves in the present day, where the echoes of the past reverberate in the current Israel-Philistine situation. In recent years, the Israel-Philistine conflict has been marked by a series of significant events, each contributing to the ongoing tension and volatility of the region. The Gaza wars, for instance, have been a stark reminder of the deep-seated hostilities that exist between the two factions. These wars, characterized by a cycle of rocket attacks, retaliations and ceasefires, have led to a significant loss of life and infrastructure, further exacerbating the humanitarian crisis in the region. Even within the Philistine territories, there is division. Two major factions, Hamas and Fatah, have been at odds for control. Fatah, the party of the Philistine Authority, which controls parts of the West Bank, seeks a two-state solution with Israel. On the other hand, Hamas, which governs the Gaza Strip, is seen by many as a militant group, advocating for a single Philistine state and rejecting Israel's right to exist. International organizations such as the United Nations have played a significant role in mediating the conflict. However, their efforts have often been met with criticism from both sides. The UN's resolutions, while recognizing the rights of the Philistine people, have been seen by some as biased against Israel. Conversely, others argue that these resolutions do not go far enough in addressing the grievances of the Philistines. The role of foreign powers, particularly the United States, cannot be overlooked. The Trump administration's policies towards the conflict marked a significant departure from those of previous administrations. The recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital and the relocation of the US Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem were moves that sparked controversy and intensified tensions. These decisions were seen by many Philistines and their supporters as a blatant disregard for their claims to East Jerusalem. Furthermore, the Abranam Accords, brokered by the Trump administration, saw a normalization of relations between Israel and several Arab nations. While these agreements were hailed as a significant step towards peace in the Middle East, they were also criticized for sidelining the Philistine cause. The accords, signed without Philistine involvement, left many feeling betrayed and further isolated on the international stage. The Israel-Philistine conflict is a complex tapestry woven with threads of history, politics, religion, and nationalism. Its current state is a reflection of this complexity, shaped by the weight of its past and the actions of the present. As we navigate the currents of this conflict, it's crucial to remember that behind the political maneuvers and diplomatic talks are the lives of millions of people caught in a struggle that has spanned generations. As we stand on the brink of the future, the Israel-Philistine conflict remains a complex issue, influenced by its past and shaping its future. The Israel-Philistine conflict, centuries in the making, is a tapestry woven from threads of history, politics, and geography. We've journeyed through time, from the medieval period to the present, examining the roots and ramifications of a conflict that has shaped the course of history. The origins of the conflict can be traced back to the medieval era, when territorial disputes and differences in religious beliefs created a chasm between the Israelites and Philistines. This rift, once formed, was only to deepen over the centuries. As we moved into the modern era, the conflict evolved, influenced by a rapidly changing world. The formation of new nations, the rise of nationalism, and the shifting balance of global power all played their part in reshaping the Israel-Philistine conflict. In particular, the establishment of the State of Israel in the mid-20th century marked a significant turning point, igniting a fresh wave of disputes and disagreements. Bringing our focus to current affairs, we see that the legacy of this age-old conflict continues to reverberate. The Israel-Philistine struggle is not an isolated issue, but one that has been and continues to be influenced by the global political landscape. The involvement of other countries, whether through diplomatic intervention, military support or economic aid, has shaped the trajectory of the conflict in countless ways. It's important to remember that the Israel-Philistine conflict is not just a historical or political issue, but a human one. It's a story of two peoples, each with their own narrative, their own dreams and their own fears. The way forward lies not in forgetting the past, but in understanding it, in acknowledging the pain and the mistakes, and in seeking common ground. As we close this chapter, remember that understanding the past is key to navigating the future. Thanks for joining us on this journey through history.